Timmons Group, and I've got Cheval here with me today. We're really excited to celebrate World Landscape Architecture Month, and we have a really unique feature today for our live discussion. I'm going to give just a minute of some backgrounds and introductions before we get started. But like I said, I'm Lillian. I'm a marketing communications manager for Timmons Group. We're a full service engineering and technology firm, kind of like based out of the Richmond region, but we've got 20 offices up and down the mid Atlantic, southeast and south central parts of the US. And we offer landscape architecture services as part of our kind of like full breadth of design, and it's World Landscape Architecture Month. So we have to celebrate that. We've got a lot of fantastic folks on our team. They kind of surpass, gosh, at this point, I don't know, 7, 8 offices, maybe even more. I'll have to check with the team. But the Charlottesville office, we're really lucky enough to have Cheval join us there, and excited to talk about the design for the Our Lady of Peace Courtyard project that's actually based in Richmond. So you're working on it a little bit remotely, Cheval, which is kind of a fantastic opportunity that we get to celebrate here in the firm, is working all over the place, from all over the place. So Cheval, I'm going to introduce you, but then I want you to talk about yourself for a little bit as well. So Cheval, you've been here for just about a year with the firm, and you have been in the design space for a while, but you have a rather unique background. Do you want to go into that for a minute?
That's great. That's correct. Nice to meet you, Lillian, and it's excited to be able to kind of talk about landscape architecture. I think it's a wonderful place to come as just to be involved. And I find my home here in Timmons, which has only been less than a year, is a deep and solid home, and I really value the team here we have. So yes, my background is slightly unique. I originally started out in my life as a professional equestrian, which brought me originally to Charlottesville. And over the years, I kind of got very curious about my environment, my nature, what was going on around me. And that led me into a second part of my life, career, which is going into school for landscape architecture. So I went back to University of Maryland, which I grew up in Baltimore. And I have a bachelor's in landscape architecture from University of Maryland.
It is too cool. It's, we were kind of catching up for a minute before the call started. And something that I want to mention too is that Cheval and I, we had this discussion. What, on like Thursday last week, I called you up and said, "Hey, do you want to do this thing, live discussion to talk about a project?" And you immediately said yes. But it's actually the first time that we're like working face to face, even like a virtual respect. So it's really cool, to your point, to get to chat. But your background is an equestrian, and you're in Charlottesville now. I can absolutely imagine when you say you got curious about your surroundings. It makes so much sense. And until you said that just now, it hadn't quite registered with me just um, how much maybe even like landscape architecture or design is involved in the equestrian world. Like, that's wild to think about.
Yeah, basically I was riding through designs every day, different type of designs, largely estates or horse show arenas, and just I kept asking questions like, why this, why this, why this? And so I just didn't want to just know why, I want to know how. So that's kind of what brought me back to that curiosity in life and going back to school.
That's fantastic. And, it's a true testament to that it's never too late to do something new with your career.
Oh, never, never.
Different route. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. So let's get started about we're going to talk about the Our Lady of Peace courtyard design that you have here. I've got the schematics up on my screen. I'm going to share them. But before we get started, do you want to give us a little bit of a background of Our Lady of Peace? I know it is this retirement facility community really in Richmond. So do you want to give us a little bit of a background?
Well, I do need to correct a little bit about that. It is in Charlottesville.
Oh, it is in Charlottesville.
It is located in Charlottesville.
I gotcha.
It's a retirement community. It is sponsored by the Catholic Diocese of Richmond.
I see.
So I do know they have different facilities throughout the state. The current project that we're talking about today is located here in Charlottesville. So, Our Lady of Peace had reached out to the Timmons Group, and ultimately because they were building a new part of their building, and they're extending in more rooms and more facility for their community there. The civil part of our group is working on the grading and stormwater management part of this, and the LA side, or the landscape architecture side, has been brought in for a couple part of this project scope. We are doing the site planning, the minimum landscaping for the new building, as well as the lighting for that part. But the client did ask for one special request, and often this is usually those little requests that we get excited about, because we really like to support our clients with their development and expanding their projects. But it's usually these little enhanced landscapes that, where as a designer, as an artist, that, I think as a landscape architect, we get excited about, right? We really get to shine in this part. So this client requested for an enhanced landscape of a courtyard area in between the old building and the new building. And so that's where the beginning of the conversation started. And this is where we kind of, we are in the early stages of this project. So we're hoping to guide the client through construction with this, both on the civil side as well as the landscape side. So, and that's one thing that unique about Timmons Group, right? It's not just landscape architects, horticulturists, or anything like that. We get to work with all different types of groups in here. So that's really part of my excitement here at Timmons.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that, I did butcher that. I understand entirely that the client is in Charlottesville and the community in Charlottesville. Thank you for correcting me on that. It must be really fulfilling to be able to drive down the street, or, down the road, and kind of see the work in progress that you have there with the client.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good.
And often we do, right? That's what's unique about the Timmons Group is, I'm the project manager here at Charlottesville's office, but our project is all over Virginia. So, and I tend to, our design team here, we're handling stuff all on the west side of Virginia, and some on the eastern coast side. So that's the unique thing about Timmons Group, is we all support each other, and all different areas.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's keep bopping along here. I'm going to scroll down and show off this concept number 1. And you and I had flipped through these really briefly, but it looks like you have 3 concepts for the same space. So we're going to show them in order: concept 1, concept 2, and then 3. And they kind of each one of them has some unique aspects, and they kind of play with each other. They speak to each other. So yeah.
I like the word that you use, play, right? This is where we get into the land, into the space, and we get to play with what is out there. And so, again, this was a design meeting we had recently with the client, where we sat down with the vice president of development for Our Lady of Peace community, and the executive director. And so basically we began that conversation, that play of design. And this is where our team is really working a lot here at Charlottesville, the landscape architect team, is we're learning how to tell stories, right? We're learning how to play with the client through words, through images, and then often I will sit down with the client with pen and paper in hand. And so this is where we get to play with lines and space, and we move around. So in this concept, where the client was requesting multiple things. So we sat down and we started to work out a couple of ways of flowing through the space. The client wanted a pergola, or a gazebo, a water feature, and plantings in natural environment. So this was a way to begin the conversation through this.
Absolutely. So this is concept number 1, kind of like stimulating some of those possibilities.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Concept number 2.
And so as we go into the concept number 2, we change the space. We talk about the flow of the space. How do the community members want to come out. We talked in the meeting of what's important for the community. And this is where I think this is what's so special about this project, and that's why we're talking about this, is that it's the residents of this community here. We are creating something so special here. The client asked us to come in to work with an enhanced landscape. They were talking about just working with plants and maybe like a little sitting area. But through our design concept, they started to get excited. They started to get their smiles get big, and I felt very emotional about this because I realized as we're talking is that the residents, the community members were, we are molding something so unique for them, and it's squeezed in between two buildings. A lot of their windows of their apartments look out into this space. And so it suddenly became a little bit more than just enhanced. It became a gem of a unique space for the community there. So it's really moving to, again, this is where we got in our conversation, Lillian, is that it's moving. For me, I had parents who had dementia, and, Our Lady Peace does have a memory care facility there. And so that was part of our conversation in the design is how can we create a safe space for members to walk around? How can we create a space where people don't feel restricted? A space where people in the community can walk outside and touch flowers, touch water, hear music. That became all very stirring and moving and became part of our conversation in our meeting here. So again, the pergola and the gazebo turned into a music bandstand idea. So suddenly it's becoming a center for gathering.
Absolutely. It's so moving. I'm going to steal your word. Hear you talk about it. And part of the reason we decided to do kind of this live discussion with it was because I don't think that, my team is fantastic at telling stories, but there's just something that you can't quite capture in an article written about a project like this. Like it's amazing to hear you talk about it because I think that there's an aspect of the storytelling that you just really can't convey any other way. So I love hearing you talk about it. Thank you. Yeah. All right. And then we've got concept number 3.
Now, concept 3 is kind of where we try to pull things together and again continue that conversation of how to use the space. Now, here's an idea we kind of reduced. We created more of a labyrinth or more of a spiral element, bringing so the residents can come out and spiral back into the doorway. Ultimately, this is the design. We are early stages of this concept, and it's so exciting to be talking about it because we're going to go back to the drawing. I mean, again, the building site plan isn't finished, right? But yet here we are, developing this really little gem of a space. Ultimately, this is kind of where we're going from here. We're going to take this, bring in the ideas the client gave feedback to. We're going to, focus in. We're working with the architect and the civil side to regrade this area because that was the challenge of the space because you can't see on plan view, right? I know as landscape architects, we often sit in plan view, which is kind of the flat view of a area. And we have to bring that to life, and often people look down at a piece of paper and they go, I don't see what you're saying. I can't feel that space. But this space, it has a bigger story because it's a big slope. It's a hill here. And so we really have to, figure out how to do elevation changes and work with that. Again, through a 2D plan, we tried to talk through those challenges, and we did. And we really discovered a unique space that I hope we continue to grow this design to become something that's not just about ideas or stories, but that is physically a story to walk through.
Right. And I love how you said that it's not just creating something, it's discovering. How can you actually discover parts of the site that, like as you're working with the site, like, oh, that kind of feeling of like, oh, a discovery of what I can use this space for kind
Yeah.
of coming to light. That's very artistic, you know, it's very cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and to talk a little bit about our plans here, just to be really, I think it's great to know is that when we're in what we call schematic design or early stages, often, so not only do we come up with a plan drawing with ideas, we also have to represent it so we try to find images that we see in this photo here, of the water feature. It really is like opening up a storybook. It's not just about words, right? We need to open up pictures. And so again, in this early stages, we use these pictures to tell that story. We want to draw the client into the space, even though it's maybe a year away from being built. So, these images are only inspirational images that I like to call inspirational. And like I said, the goal is to draw the client into the space and feel excited about it.
yeah, absolutely. Cheval, this is so great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and kind of bring us back here. But thank you so much for sharing your background and a little bit more about the Our Lady of Peace Courtyard project in Charlottesville. See, I can get it right. Yeah, it's like I said, Landscape Architecture Month, and that's fantastic. And it gives us a cool platform to talk about projects like this. But truly, we should be talking about projects like this anyway, because the work that your team is doing is just very unique and it's very comprehensive. And you can tell by looking at your designs that you all have the client in mind. You have the immediate client, but then you have the client's clients, right? Like you're thinking about the people that will be living in this space and spending their time there, and it's more to it than just well, we'll just design something. You are telling a story, and it's really it's very visible in your designs. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you for hosting this so I can share. And as you can tell, I can tell a lot of. I'm excited about what we do here, and it's just the beginning. I know all the landscape architects here in Timmons Group are very excited about the growth that we're doing here and the way we can bring in our little piece to the bigger story.
Absolutely. Well, Cheval, thank you so much, and it's nice to formally meet you, if only virtually. I'm sure we'll see you soon at some point in person. If you are interested in connecting with Cheval, I'm going to link his information in the video caption here. But stay tuned. We've got other World Landscape Architecture Month features headed your way, and appreciate everyone that was able to join us. Thanks.